I've spent a lot of time getting a pie in my face, and I thought it's about time that I actually talked about it. So here we go. A pie in the face. It is a comedy staple dating back to unknown origins. The throwing of a pie straight into the face of some unfortunate recipient who is left with a momentary loss of all visible dignity. And yet, it's funny, plain and simple, if done right. Some may say that it's a time-worn, silly, and cheap way for a comedian to get a laugh, whether he or she is the pie thrower or receiver. Others find it a reliable and good for a laugh in any number of comic situations or on the movie screen. Stage, TV, out in public, wherever. Here's just a part of the rich history of this simple but enduring gag, performed and perfected by some of the greatest comedian legends of the past century. They say the first pie put in someone's face was by the silent movie star Ben Turpin in his long-forgotten 1909 film, Mr. Flip. As you can see by Ben's face, he was just asking for a pie. And his annoyingly flirtatious character was simply asking for it. Here we are with this very, very old clip of the very first pie in the face. And you can see Ben being annoying. He's annoying this person. He's annoying her. He wants to flip her hair. And apparently you could do that back then. But she takes power and puts the pie in his face. There you have it, the very first pie in the face. I know. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Take a bow. Thank you. Yes. But for most historians, the first real pieing, as it would soon be called, happened to be on the set of the 1913 Max Sennett silent comedy, A Noise from the Deep. The crew was trying to figure out how to create a comic sequence when the male star, Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, saw a tray of pastries. He took Mabel Normand and the female lead aside and explained the gag of throwing one of them at him when the camera started rolling. The director had no clue what was being planned, and when the gag went off, it was overwhelmingly shocking and funny. It soon became a staple gag in every Max Sennett film, the Keystone Studio film, so much so that the studios bought a bakery and moved it onto the studio lot just to keep them supplied with pies. Fatty Arbuckle eventually teamed up with Buster Keaton and his film production company. Together they perfected many more silent gags, but never lost sight of the pie in the face. It was at that time they created some of the simple rules to the gag that everyone should follow. Here they are now. Rules for pieing. The victim should be someone who deserves it. That's right. Someone pretentious, haughty, proud, higher class, upper crust, if you will. A mother never gets hit with a custard pie. A mother-in-law, yes. You get the distinction. The pie crusts are to be double thick and brittle. That's right. They're double thick because you do not use, next rule is you do not use pie tins because they could actually hurt somebody. So you have a very thick pie crust that will hold together while you're throwing it, and then brittle enough that it'll break apart when it hits the face. The fillings are colored to contrast with the victim's outfit. I know. You know, they're thinking all the time here. Chocolate for light colors, vanilla for dark. Shaving cream, however, would soon become the staple because it doesn't spoil like dairy products. I'll tell you some more stories about that later on. And one of the biggest rules that I found is that it's the reaction that makes it funny. Throwing the pie alone, not so funny. How the other person reacts, very funny. Okay. So, the pie in the face gag became an expected and reliable comic source all throughout this time at the beginning of silent films. It found its way into all sorts of films to the point of losing its effect. Oh, another pie in the face, what do you know? Not until 1927, when the legendary Laurel and Hardy decided to film the ultimate pie fight in the Hal Roach comedy, The Battle of the Century, appropriately named, did it really become funny again. Laurel just said, this is being done too much. We are going to stage the pie fight that's going to end all pie fights right here. If you've seen one pie in the face, 4,000 more has got to be funnier. Indeed, over 4,000 pies Custard, blackberry, and chocolate pies were ordered from the LA Pie Company, and over the course of 5 days, the epic battle was filmed. The scene starts simply as a quarrel between Oliver Hardy and a street salesman that escalates when pies are mistakenly thrown on innocent passers-by. Each one joins in to get their revenge and ending up getting another one innocent involved. What starts out with carefully crafted gags soon becomes a melee and a maelstrom of flying pie. No one escapes the mess, as we can see in this scene. There's the upper crust right there. You can tell who's going to get pied. There. She deserved that. She deserved that, absolutely. And this guy, yes, he deserved that too. I don't know how they got into the photo studio. Quite a mess. And there's an unsuspecting passerby. Yeah. At this point, anyone who isn't in the pie fight deserves to get pied. Yes. So it went on to, actually there was a lull after this. It did quench all the pie fights, but it got picked up soon. And who else to do this but the Three Stooges? They were all adept at physical humor and creating chaos. The pie fight fit right in. And yet, in over 200 short films over 25 years, the pie fight only figured into a few. Most notably, the Sweet Pie and Pie stands out with a long, sustained fight where everyone gets it. Mo Howard became so proficient at throwing pies, he was actually hired out by other studios to show up in their movies and throw the pies. He was the world's first stunt pier. Going on from the Three Stooges, next in historical legacy, Soupy Sales. How many of you remember Soupy Sales? Anybody at all? Yeah, only a few. Okay. That's okay. For the rest of you, Soupy had a daytime show in the early 60s that looked like a kid's show but appealed to adults. He actually preceded Pee Wee Herman with a show he called Lunch with Soupy. That's right. And Soupy developed pie throwing into an art form. Straight to the face, on top of the head, a pie to both ears from behind, moving into a stationary pie and countless other variations. He claimed that he and his visitors had been hit by more than 20,000 pies during his career. Celebrities lined up to get hit by a Soupy pie: Alice Cooper, Jerry Lewis, Mickey Rooney, Tony Curtis, Burt Lancaster, and you may recognize this guy right here, Frank Sinatra. Frank made the distinction that he wanted the pie to be thrown by Dean Martin. And he got his wish. He got his wish. So next in the line was Blake Edwards and the Great Race. I clicked through that a little too quick. But that had Jack Lemmon, Natalie Wood, and Tony Curtis. Some of you may remember this movie. You can probably still watch it somewhere. But it culminated in a 4-minute pie fight that rivaled the battle of the century that Laurel and Hardy did. Their goal was to break the record, but they only used 2,500 pies and still had a bakery budget of $18,000. Laurel and Hardy had a bakery budget of $18,000, but the Great Race had a budget of $200,000 in pies. And here's a little clip of what that was like. Now, you might notice also Tony Curtis in the background, just walking along, totally untouched. That's what you get with the star power. This resulted in a tour de farce that actually destroyed the set. The actors were so much into it that when Blake Edwards finally ordered cut, they turned on him and pied him into his trailer. It still stands as the latest, greatest example of pie throwing in the films. And one little anecdote about this, too, is that they filmed this for 3 days, and then they quit for the weekend. They came back, and when they opened up the doors to the set, the stench of spoiled custard immediately made everyone throw up.
It'll smell real good.
Yeah. So perhaps the most unusual uses of a pie fight that did not make the final cut was in Dr. Strangelove, released in 1964, before the Great Race. The original ending had the chiefs of state throwing insults and custard pie to find an end to the conflict. Well, this would have made a more lighthearted ending. Stanley Kubrick cut it, saying it did not deliver the true terror of nuclear destruction that he wanted. I don't know. I imagine people lining up to throw a pie into George C. Scott's face. From there, pies have taken on more of a political nature and a social commentary, an expression of rebellion. Politicians, fashion designers, heads of state, billionaires and tycoons, even Bill Gates and Rupert Murdoch have gotten pied in public by an unexpected assailant. What was meant to be an insult, how it turned out depended on the victim's reaction. Anita Bryant. Anybody remember Anita Bryant? Yeah. She got pied by an anti-gay activist and afterwards remarked by saying...
Pro-gay activist.
What was that?
Pro-gay activist.
Oh,
She was against gays.
She was the anti-gay activist.
So it would be a pro-gay.
Anita Bryant, let me restate that, I read it wrong. Anita Bryant, the anti-gay activist, was pied by a gay man, and afterwards she remarked, "At least it's a fruit pie." A derogatory remark for a gay man at the time. Some political pie throwers haven't been as lucky, and they have been arrested and sentenced to jail terms for assault. It's just a pie. Oh well. So, there's a lot of history to the simple act of throwing a pie, yet over time, the technique and technology of pushing a pastry into your fellow man's face hasn't changed. I'm going to take some questions right now, and then we're going to demonstrate pie throwing. Yes?
So, am I assessing correctly that the initiation of pie throwing came before the development of dry cleaning? Because people aren't usually like laundering suits, right? How do they do laundry?
The history of dry cleaning is another talk.
But you know how,
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure they found a way to clean it up, though. But you're right. That's one of the reasons that we use shaving cream, because it's soap.
yes.
It's soap, yeah. Yes?
What's your favorite instance of a pie throwing?
My favorite instance of a pie throwing? What's the one I gave to my friend Sandy? He was busy performing on the street, and we just walked up and threw a pie in his face. It was funny to me. He didn't like it.
Did he deserve it?
He deserved it, as far as I was concerned. Yeah. No, we also do it for people who have birthdays. Any other questions? Yes.
And I know it's a TV thing, but anytime I've seen a pie thrown to the face have been whenever I've gone to the circus and like clowns do it.
Yeah.
Do the clowns predate the film, or is that?
Actually, I found one of the first instances before the silent movies was actually a medicine show. Where the head of the medicine show took a pie and just kind of threw it at one of the people in the audience, and it hit his shirt. But the guy said, "Oh, that'd be a whole lot funnier if it hit him in the face." And that's where I understand it truly got started then. So I can only imagine that it may have splintered off. But it's such a comedy icon. Who's to say? I mean, rubber chickens and banana peels and pies. Who's to say? Who did it first and how it got started? Any other questions?
Have you seen it internationally as well?
Internationally?
Yeah.
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 It carried over across the season.
Oh yeah. Plenty of times. Yeah. It's a great way to end a routine.
Great British Baking Show with the juniors.
Did they do that?
It's become their thing. At least
They throw a
once
pie in the
season.
face? The British bacon. And the Brits know how to make people laugh. All right, well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to ask my partner here, Bill, to come up here. Bill? Yes. I'll be pitching, he'll be receiving, he'll be catching. All right, Bill. Stand right here.
Does he deserve it?
And Bill deserves it. Yes, he does.
Sorry, Bill.
We don't have time to go over all the reasons. Okay.
Take your
And
word for it.
true to form, we're just simply using a paper plate. You can do this at home, kids.
It's a real crust, it's not tin.
There we go. And then we give it a good dose of cream here. Non-menthol. by the way. All right, Bill, I want you to hold that for a moment. I'm going to get your safety equipment. I've got some goggles and a poncho, and I'm gonna give that to you right. I guess I deserve that. Anybody want dessert? It's on me. Thank you very much, everybody.